know I'll keep holding on.
This was a performance by the Gay Men's Choir from Washington, D.C. at the opening ceremony of AIDS 2012, which set the tone for numerous discussions that followed on issues affecting people living with HIV. The numerous press conferences conducted by the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition highlighted issues related to men who have sex with men, transgender people, sex workers, migrant populations, people living with HIV, to name a few. The following clips represent the main issues coming out of these press conferences.
One of the hard things about the Caribbean is, and what we've been talking about in terms of this conference, is context is everything. Particularly in the Caribbean, we have high rates of stigma that's associated with HIV, as well as high rates of stigma against gay men and lesbians and others. We actually have had high profile individuals who were killed for being gay in the Caribbean, and that certainly has ramifications in terms of access to HIV prevention services.
There are so many challenges that, as a young person who is living with HIV and also as a young gay person, there's so many challenges that we face within our communities across the region, from low self-esteem, stigma and discrimination, suicide, mental health, because there's no proper mental health services that really address our needs, unemployment, unfair treatments and unequal opportunities.
One of the most important things personally for me, and I believe that other members of the GLBT community can identify with, is the inability to live our lives free of discrimination, be it verbal or physical discrimination, and the fact that there are laws, the Buggery law that remains on the books in Jamaica that criminalizes same-sex relationships.
Over and over again in studies, you see that gay men in the Caribbean are far less likely to go to the doctor, particularly if they have a rectal STD, compared to other individuals, because they're afraid to admit that they had sex with another man. They're far less likely to access condoms or even to access lubricant.
Yeah, you have condoms all over the place, but for us to use it properly and for us to use it effectively, the challenge is that we don't have access to lubricants. Or if we go to buy it, you have this funny look. What do you want to buy it for?
Things like that gay persons or transsexual persons, transgender person cannot complete the basic education because of the discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
But because this society is so gendered, everything from, we have female restrooms, male restrooms, we have school uniforms for boys and for girls, we have pink and blue for babies. People are, they only function in a world that has two genders, when in fact there's a spectrum of how you feel.
If we were not living in a region that had the kinds of levels of hostility, of stigma and discrimination, you would find more persons who would want to live in the way that their body is commanding them to live.
You, as growing up, because you didn't have the chance to sign your own birth certificate, you didn't have the chance to sign your own passport, there was what your parents or what the government chose to put for you. But if we as trans was able to make our own choice to put our birth certificate the other way around, we would have put it trans or female, male from female at trans.
For lots of people, you're considered a monster. And so in prison situations and in the public, subject to physical violence in lots of situations.
As to where St. Lucia is, I think our major conversation need to be with our religious groups, and we need to be able to understand how can we teach the word of the Lord without making it a subject of intolerance, of fear.
And I'm really disappointed with our governments and even with our leaders, even within the church communities. And even that they don't know, there's so many people who are hidden in the churches for that reason.
The most at-risk populations within our Caribbean society are advocating for government leaders to embrace their challenges and implement policies that help reduce stigma and discrimination. From the Global Village at the 19th International AIDS Conference, I am Glenn Simon reporting for the Government Information Service and CBMP.